Today I'm going to teach you how to make your maps visually appealing and vibrant. So this code that I have here is a continuation of a script that I wrote for another video here on YouTube. In that video, I taught you how to create cloud-free imagery. Now this map is okay, but I think we can make it better. In order to do that, in order to make it more visually appealing, what we want to do is we want to play with the min and the max values. So these represent the minimum reflectance values and the maximum reflectance values that are displayed on this map. What I usually do when first playing around with the map and trying to find the best stretch for it is I go into this layers button and I click the little settings and this pop-up will appear. I go to custom and I do a 100% stretch. Sometimes this is a very good option. Other times it is not. So what's happening here is that this image has some extremely high reflectance values, which is really skewing the visualization of the map as a whole. So because we have all of this ice here that has extremely high reflectance values, that is again skewing the range of values that we have and making it so all of this relatively lower reflectance values in the vegetation and water are being totally washed away. So I'm not going to use the 100% stretch here. I'm going to go back to custom and return to this 0 to 24,000 that I had. So let's look at that one more time. And what I'm going to start to do is I'm going to start to play with the range. Instead of 24,000, I'm going to lower this a little bit. This is basically going to limit the top values of reflectance that we have here. So what does it look like if we do 16,000 instead? So the image is a little bit more washed out. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to play with the lower range. So let me just put 5,000 here and see what that looks like. Interesting. Okay, so now you can see that there is more clarity in this image. So what I have done is I have told it that I'm not really interested in the pixels with really low reflectance values. And I'm not really interested in the areas with really high reflectance values either. I am really interested in those mid-range areas. So the areas that represent vegetation and water. And so I can continue to play with this range until I find a stretch that I think really highlights the areas of the image that I am interested in. Whoop, see, that was a little bit too far. So now I think this 8,000 was a little bit too extreme. So let's go back to 6,000 and see if that looks better. So this is looking pretty good to me, but as I said, we can continue to modify this until we feel like it is vibrant and is again highlighting the parts of the landscape that we are most interested in. So this may completely change depending on what you are studying. If you were studying ice, you probably wouldn't want to limit all of those high reflectance values. I right now am interested in seeing the difference between the water and the vegetation and the city. And so I'm pretty happy with the stretch that I have right now. So now that I have figured out a pretty good stretch, I'm going to hard code that. So I'm going to take the 7,000 and put that in the min, and then the 13,000 and put that as the max. Now, each time I run my code, it'll give me those values. I do want to show you an example of an area where using the 100% stretch would be appropriate. So I'm going to create another geometry and put that geometry just over some vegetation. And now I'm going to modify my code so that it clips to the geometry 2. I'm actually going to copy paste this, keep this one as the main geometry, and I'll go back to our original numbers here just for this example. All right, so let me turn off the geometry visualization. You can see here also how much it helped to change the min and the max in this original larger image. You can see just how washed out and gray this image is here with the min at 0 and 24,000. All right, so let's turn on just the small geometry visualization. And now we can go to stretch 100 and apply that. And you can see that in this instance, the stretch worked pretty well. This is more vibrant than is perhaps reality, but sometimes, depending on your application, that is okay. For example, if you want to really be able to tell the differences between different tree species or different areas of shrubland versus grassland versus forest, sometimes that dramatic stretch is actually how you want to display your image. You do want to be careful by not misrepresenting the image. If you create something that is very dramatically stretched, you just want to be honest with whoever you're showing the map to, that you have visualized it in such a way that highlights certain characteristics. One last thing that I'll say is that these min and max values will change based off of where you are in the earth, what kinds of vegetation there are, what kinds of other land uses there are. So just be wary of that. One min and max does not fit all, as you can see here. All right, I hope this helps.